What's up, everyone? I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I hope you're all enjoying the holiday season. We have a really cool video planned for today that I'm very excited to share. So, as you may remember, 7 months ago now, I reacted to your Beyblade hot takes. That video was a ton of fun to make, and I definitely plan to do a part 2 in the future, but today I thought we'd switch things up. Today, I'm going to be giving you my Beyblade hot takes, and just a fair warning, some of these are pretty hot. So that's kind of it, no further explanation needed. We're just going to go through each take, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Jumping right into our first take, this one is definitely going to ruffle some feathers, so here goes. Niall is kind of getting overrated, and I guess a bonus hot take to go with this one is that his feat of overpowering the Black Excalibur may be a little overrated as well. Now, let me explain. I'm mainly talking about Metal Masters Niall because I feel like we just didn't see enough of him in Fury. So look, I still think Niall is a high-tier Metal Masters character, and I like him a lot. Team Wildfang is clearly my favorite team, and he's a big part of that. However, I think some people may be getting a little carried away with the Niall discussions. Yes, he's extremely cool, he's strong, but guys, I've heard people say he wipes Julian. I think that's just an insane take, and you don't even have to take it that far. Some people would just say that he beats Julian in a contested match, and I'm honestly going to disagree with that too. I think at best for Niall, this is a 50-50 matchup. He looked very impressive against Masamune, and of course he blocked Julian's special move, which is the main reason we're having this discussion. And look, some people try to discredit that feat by saying it was just a surprise attack, but that's actually not where I'm going with this. Niall launched directly into the line of fire and overpowered the move, so I mean, what more can you really say? Sure, Julian wasn't expecting it, and there's a chance that if he knew Niall was going to be there, he would have done things differently. But look, Niall still launched into the Ring of Fire and overpowered the move. So I'm not arguing that this was just a surprise attack, but what I will argue is that maybe this wasn't Julian's full power special move. Just hear me out. Let's look at the move that Niall overpowered one more time, and then let's compare that Black Excalibur to this Black Excalibur from the Damien fight. Do you notice any differences? I mean, just look at the lightning coming out of the sword. Everything is purple. Julian is physically exerting himself to launch this move. I mean, this move is clearly more powerful than the first one. Now, am I saying that Julian was holding back against Niall? Probably not. He's got no reason to hold back. But I'm more so arguing that he put extra power into the special move against Damien. I mean, is it crazy for me to say that in the battle where Julian was being taunted, embarrassed, and disgraced on the biggest stage possible, he would want to put a little bit more power into his special move to try and defend himself? I mean, I don't think that's a crazy reach. Damien was really getting under his skin, so it makes sense Julian would dig a little deeper and put more power into this special move. One, because he's probably angry, but two, he wants to defend his pride, which is so important to him. As opposed to here against Niall, I'm not going to say he was necessarily holding back, but he had no reason to go above and beyond like he did against Damien. And although there's no way to prove it, there's a pretty big chance that this Black Excalibur would break through the Mystic Zone if he had used it against Niall. But look, even if you want to say it wouldn't break through, what can Niall do against the Eyes of Medusa? I seriously don't think he has a means of escape there. So, okay, long story short, sure, there's a world where Niall could win, but just because he overpowered this weaker version of the Black Excalibur doesn't mean we can just grant him the win. I think Julian should be favored to even heavily favored in this matchup. I mean, after all, Jenga did barely beat him. And let's be real for a second, even the biggest Niall fans should be able to admit that Niall is not putting up the same fight against Jenga that Julian did. Or at least that's what I think. Let me know if I'm wrong, of course. But I am going to move on to our next take so we can cover as much as possible. So our next hot take is arguably just as hot. Diving Claw Kenta is a top 5 non-legendary blader, and you could even glaze him into being top 3. Now, personally, I don't know if I'd take it that far. I think top 5 is far more realistic. But anyways, Diving Claw Kenta is basically Kenta right before getting the Star Fragment upgrade. This is peak Flame Sagittario Kenta. His main feats are a close match against Jenga, and of course, the final match with Ryuga. If you ask me, challenging Jenga the way he did already puts Kenta in the top 10 non-legendary blader conversation, but then his match with Ryuga is what really solidifies top 5. Sure, at no point was Kenta winning. Heck, at certain points he was getting tossed around, but to be honest, he was tanking some crazy attacks from Ryuga, which showed more than impressive stamina and defense. Then the strategy he cooked up to attack El Drago once it's in survive mode shows his battle IQ is pretty solid as well. And then of course, the main event, Kenta cracking El Drago Destructor. This is unheard of. Ryuga deemed it necessary to use his ultimate move on Kenta, which is already impressive enough. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he used his ultimate move to win against King, yet he's using it here on Kenta. Now, there's gotta be some sort of explanation for Kenta cracking El Drago, while King's full power special move didn't, because Kenta is not stronger than King. At least this version. So maybe Kenta cracked El Drago because of the angle, or maybe the nature of the move, or something else like that, but regardless, this is still so impressive. With all things considered, the only non-legendary bladers I feel like you could put above Kenta are Metal Fury versions of Tsubasa, Masamune, Yu, probably Deshayan, and then the rest are kind of arguable. I will say it's hard for me to picture Kenta competing with these guys, and then even like a Jigsaw, or even like a Julian from Season 2. But I mean, these feats, I guess, quite literally speak for themselves. So let me know if I'm overrating Kenta. It's possible I am, but these feats against Jinga and Ryuga, it's just ridiculous. But moving on to the next take, I'm going to switch things up a little bit, and honestly, this may be the hottest take of the video, so here it is. I think Beyblade Burst Season 1 is okay. From what I've heard, the main consensus is Season 1 is amazing, and I've even heard people say that it's peak Burst, but I think it was just alright. I mean, there's lots of great battles, lots of cool characters, but ultimately, I'd rate it about a 6 to 6.5 out of 10. Now look, I'm doing my best not to come across as a Metal Fight fan just hating on Burst for no reason. That's truly not what I'm trying to do here. There's just a few things about the first season that I didn't really love. Also, I'm not going to unpack everything in this video, but if you're interested, I'd be happy to make a full review for Burst Season 1 where I do unpack everything. So let me know if you want that. But okay, Burst Season 1. I have a few problems with it. One issue I just recently realized I had is kind of a story thing. So obviously we had the regionals and then the nationals, and it's all about Vault and his growth, but it always felt like something was missing. All those great battles, yet something was still missing. And I actually didn't realize what it was until I got further into Evolution. Basically, what I was missing was a story beyond the battles. Take Battle Bladers, for example. We got amazing fights here that kept us on the edge of our seats, but what really made this tournament special for me was everything going on beyond the battles. Ryuga slowly losing himself to the Dark Power, Doji and the Dark Nebula manipulating things from the shadows, Jinga trying to save his friends and then ultimately save Ryuga. I mean, there's just so much going on beyond the battles that made things very interesting. In Evolution, we had the classic BC Soul versus Wakia's team, Daigo's team, and a bunch of other teams, which was very entertaining, but at the same time, we have the storyline of Shu disappearing. And then we have the whole Red Eyes group, Free leaving BC Soul, and for me, it's the things like this, the stories beyond the fights, that keep me coming back and wanting more, and Beyblade Burst Season 1 just didn't really have that. Now, don't get me wrong, it was very cool to see Vault and his group of friends grow together and take on new challenges, but still, it felt like there was just nothing really going on beyond the tournament, which is fine, but for my personal preference, it just felt like I was missing that classic Beyblade storyline behind the scenes. I will say though, that's completely a personal preference. A lot of people would be a-okay with just seeing amazing battles, and that's perfectly fine, but for me, I really love the story aspect. I definitely have more to say about Burst Season 1, but that's for another video. Moving on to our next hot take, we are going to start a dialogue. Tsubasa is easily the strongest non-team leader in the World Championships, and honestly, when I think about Tsubasa in Metal Masters, I don't even think of him as a non-team leader. I think of him with the team leaders because I think he's that good. Now, let me clarify, I am talking about post-Dark Power Tsubasa, so basically from the Excalibur match onward. But yeah, I have this Tsubasa above Masamune, Zio, Klaus, Jack, Nile, Chiyun, literally every non-leader. And then the only team leaders who beat Tsubasa are Jinga, Kiyoya, Damien, most likely Deshayan, and then from there it's debatable. So yeah, that means, in my opinion, Tsubasa versus Julian is close enough to where I see it going either way. Tsubasa's victory against Wales and Sophie, I think, largely goes under the radar. I mean, his special move easily took out the Grand Decalion, and then his victory against Argo goes even further under the radar, because I guess Argo never really beat anyone that good. But guys, seriously, go rewatch that fight, and you'll see that Argo is no joke. His raw power is insane, and for Tsubasa to overcome this is massive. And then he won against Peak Arrangement Jack, which is another insane win. Let's just consider the fact that a weaker version of Jack bodied Klaus, like absolutely destroyed him, yet Tsubasa beat the strongest version of Jack. That alone takes Tsubasa out of the strongest non-team leader conversation, because Klaus is pretty high up there in that conversation. And then plus his win against Argo, Tsubasa now gets moved into the team leader conversation, if that makes sense. Tsubasa is just that good. Top-notch battle IQ with some very powerful special moves. He's legit. But that is going to be the last take I have for you guys in this video. I was expecting to put some more, but I guess I'll have to save it for a part 2 because I do have a few more takes. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with some of these takes? Do you think I'm crazy for saying some of these? Be sure to let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next video.